Okay, here we go. More on section 8.5, so if you want to read your book and learn some more about this, you can. So hopefully you guys did okay on that worksheet I gave you on just finding the least common denominators. And I'm going to try to post answer keys to all the worksheets on our PowerSchool page so that you can check them if you're struggling with them. I probably won't post it till the next day just to keep you honest. But you should go back and check your own homework because I'm not going to really have a way to do that for you. And that way, if you have questions on any of them, when we do a live Zoom, you can ask me those questions. So now that we know how to find LCDs, we have to figure out how to add these fractions together. So if you recall, this is 5th grade now. To add two fractions, we first need to change them to the common denominator. Now, if you remember, for 8 and 12, it was 24. So the first thing we're going to do is rewrite each of the fractions with the new common denominator. Now, you know that I can't just multiply 8 times 3 to make it 24 and not multiply the 3 times 3, so that's going to become 9 over 24. 12 needs to get multiplied by 2. 5 times 2 is 10. So there's my new fractions. Now remember, 5th grade, when we add them together, the denominator doesn't change and our answer is just 9 over 24. All right. If you remember this one, the least common denominator was, I think, 594. Subtraction. 66 goes in there, I think 9 times. So 9 times 9 is 81. Hope this is right. I did it before and I'm trying to remember. 54 goes in there 11 times. So I'm multiplying 54 to get that. So I have to multiply the numerator by the same amount. Because if I do that, I'm really just multiplying by 1 and I'm not changing the value, I'm just changing the size pieces that we're talking about. So then 81 minus 77 would be 4 over 594. So that's grade school stuff. So now let's move on. These were two that we did the LCD on. So if you remember this one, the LCD was 12x squared y to the 5th. So you have to ask yourself, what is this denominator missing to become the new denominator? It's missing a 4 and a y squared. So I have to multiply my numerator times 4 times y squared. This is going to become 8y squared. Okay, the next one is missing only an x. So I'm going to multiply that and I'm going to do 7x. And then my final step is simply to combine these into a single fraction. Now remember, those are not like terms, so I'm just going to write it 7x plus 8y squared over 12x squared y squared. And do not, no mad slashing because of that addition sign right there. Okay, this one, if you remember, this factored 2 times x minus 1, and this one was x minus 3 times x minus 1. So our least common denominator was 2, x minus 1, x minus 3. So the first thing I'm going to do, is write these both with the new common denominator. Now I know you guys don't like to write out steps, but if you don't, you're going to have trouble. Just take the time and write everything out like I'm doing here. All right, so on this one, we have to look at what is this denominator missing to become the new denominator, and it's an x minus 3. So I need to multiply the numerator times x minus 3. And I'm actually going to distribute that out and get individual terms, because to add these two numerators in the end, we're going to want individual terms. All right, the second fraction, the only thing this is missing to become the common denominator is a 2. So I have to multiply the 1 by 2, and I get a 2. Now that I have the least common, they're both on the same denominator, I can add the numerator terms together. I'm going to get a 4x minus 10 all over 2 times x minus 1 times x minus 3. Now, if I want the final answer in simplest form, you've got to see if that can be simplified anymore, which I do. I want the answers in lowest terms. So remember, to simplify, I have to factor first. So the numerator, if I factor it, the only way I can factor it is to take a 2 out. Now I have that. And I am allowed to make this 2 over 2 become 1. So my final answer is going to be 2x minus 5 over x minus 1, x minus 3. Okay? All right. So now let's do 2 more that aren't quite as easy here. So, first things first, we need to factor the denominators. X plus 7, x minus 2, and this one is just x plus 7. That's prime, I can't factor it at all. So that tells me my least common denominator is going to need 1x plus 7, and it's going to need an x minus 2. Okay, so I got to change these both to the common denominator. This isn't missing anything. This already has the common denominator, so I don't need to change, if I'm not changing the denominator, I don't need to change the numerator. This one is missing a what? It has an x plus 7, but it's missing an x minus 2. Now, this is where you gotta be really careful. So now I gotta actually FOIL that out. I have to multiply x plus 3 times x minus 2. So this one's a little tougher. So first, x squared, inner's 3x, outer's negative 2x, so that's plus 1x minus 6. Now, this is where you have to be so careful when this is subtraction, because now I'm subtracting all of this. So this subtraction sign, if I change it to addition, is actually going to make these become their opposites. So that negative sign, that subtraction sign, is getting distributed to everything. So now when I combine terms, this x squared and this one, which is minus x squared now, are going to simply cancel out. And I'm going to use the word cancel because that's actually becoming 0. I have a negative x and I have a positive 1. All over x plus 7 times x minus 2. And that's my answer. And since this can't be factored, and it's not like either the factors in the denominator, that's in simplest form already. All right, one more. You guys are being really good. Have I lost you? No, okay, good. Okay, so first things first here, I have to factor my denominator. X minus 4 plus 2. Will that do it, guys? You okay with that? If you're not strong with factoring, this is going to be a struggle, I'm afraid. All right, this, x and x. Now let's reason this through. This is positive, which tells me I have to have both, either both negatives or both positives. Since this is negative, they're both going to be negatives. What factors of 32 add up to 12? 8 and 4, okay? So this one's gonna be kind of a stinker because our least common denominator is going to be what? I'm gonna do this a little different because of the room here. My least common denominator is gonna have 1x minus 4, 1x plus 2, and an x minus 8. And since I'm gonna combine these two fractions into one eventually, I'm just gonna put them kind of over 1 right now. So this denominator has the x minus 4, it's missing the x minus 8. So I have to multiply by x minus 8. So this is going to get multiplied by x minus 8. Can we FOIL that? What are we going to get? X squared. That doesn't look good. That's x minus 8. So I'm going to have a positive 3x from the inners, a minus 8x from the outers. So that's negative 5x, and then minus 24. Okay? All right. This one, when is missing the x plus 2. So I need to multiply x minus 5 times x plus 2. So now, this is a subtraction sign though. So what does that tell me? I'm going to put that subtraction sign in, but I'm going to put this all in parentheses so that I know I got to change it later. So x squared, negative 5x from the inners, positive 2x is going to give me negative 3x minus 10. Now, when I go to combine this into a single fraction, my denominator stays the same. But the numerator, what's going to happen? If I distribute the subtraction sign, that will become minus plus plus. Everything comes its opposite. So what's that going to give me here? The x squareds again are going to cancel. Negative 5x and positive 3x is negative 2x. And negative 24 and positive 10 is negative 14. Now, we always want to make sure we can't simplify it anymore. So if I factored the numerator by removing a negative 2, that would become x plus 7, but that's not really helping me because I don't have an x plus 7 in the denominator. So I can either leave my answer this over that or negative 2x minus 14 over that. Okay, now I know these are going to be challenging, but just take your time and do one step at a time, okay? So now your next assignment is going to be, there is a worksheet on adding and subtracting rational expressions. So that's going to be on PowerSchool, somewhere right next to this video. All right, guys, hang in there, stay healthy.